Next man up, 1025 The Game. Hope everybody out there had a great weekend. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you on this Monday. Broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Parker, bye week, how'd you enjoy it?
It was great because I didn't have to suffer. I got to enjoy my college football Saturday, got to chill with some red zone on Sunday, and didn't have to worry about a loss.
Yes,
So
I
it
did.
was great.
I did the same thing, and it was awesome to watch yesterday and feel like the Titans won the bye week. The everything that the Titans probably wanted to happen ended up working out, except for the Giants blew a 10-point lead late against the Bears. That would have helped out the Titans' draft pick hopes. But anyway, we'll get into that later on. Saturday was an important day of college football. Lots of close calls for teams in college football playoff contention, including Vanderbilt. The Commodores taking on Auburn at home. And man, what a game again. That's now 3 straight for Vanderbilt that have just come down to the wire in the weirdest way possible. You look back 2 weeks ago, Missouri coming up 3 inches short on a Hail Mary. Vandy erasing a 24-point fourth quarter deficit against Texas, almost erasing, I should say, and almost recovering an onside kick to give them a chance to tie or win the game. And then this week, Auburn firing Hugh Freeze and clearly got the interim coach bump. The offense looked way better than anything we've seen from Auburn all year long. And Vandy got punched in the mouth. It was 17-3 early on in that game, and the Commodores found a way to get back into it, take a lead late, almost gave that up too. They were up 38-30, ended up getting tied at 38 thanks to just some spectacular plays from Cam Coleman. I do want to, quick sidebar, that dude is going to be a great player on Sundays. The touchdown catch, bobbling it and reeling it in with one hand, followed by another one-handed catch in the same spot in the end zone for the 2-point conversion. You knew where the ball was going almost on every play, and you still couldn't stop it because he was that good. Although the same thing did happen in overtime. Vandy went down and scored to open the overtime period, made it 45-38. And then on fourth down, you knew it was going to number 8. CJ Hurd bails out and double teams Coleman in the end zone. It's incomplete, and Vanderbilt gets the win. What a game on Saturday. And Vandy, just by the skin of their teeth, able to escape and keep their college football playoff hopes alive.
I feel like we had a pretty good read on that game because Auburn's coming in 4-5. They just fired their head coach and Hugh Freeze, and they have such a talented roster that the 4-5 record, if you're just looking at it, that it doesn't indicate. And Cam Coleman was unleashed. We've all kind of known about Cam Coleman, but that was kind of his coming out party because, oh my gosh, just circus catch after circus catch. If you want to talk about drafts, 2027 is going to be a loaded year for receivers because you'll have Jeremiah Smith, you'll have Cam Coleman, you'll have Ryan Williams, and probably some of the Clemson receivers as well coming out. It's going to be wild.
Yeah, next year, if you need a receiver, that's the draft to find one because there are plenty of elite guys coming out. This year, there's a good group too. We've gone through the top guys: Jordan Tyson from Arizona State, Carnell Tate from Ohio State, Jeremy Bernard, Alabama. The list goes on, but yeah, the Maseratis are waiting in the garage for 2027 with Jeremiah Smith, Ryan Williams, and Cam Coleman, who again was just awesome. And you mentioned that Auburn team. There's going to be a lot of conversation of, well, it was an overtime win against an Auburn team that wasn't very good, and that Auburn team put up 3 points against Kentucky the week before. I think you could clearly see that team maybe needed a change at the top because not only was Hugh Freeze your head coach, Hugh Freeze was calling the plays, and that offense was anemic through the first 9 games of the year. And then they come out and drop 38. Now, Vandy's defense, I think there is a little bit of concern there. Texas's offense had struggled all year. They put up 34 on you. Auburn's offense had struggled all year. They put up 38 on you. You can't be the get-right game for these teams' offenses that have struggled throughout the year. But I think you could also see that offense had new life. Ashton Daniels was making plays with his legs, and there was a much better flow to that offense than what we've seen from Auburn all season long under Hugh Freeze.
I try to watch it because, again, I've never called plays in college. I've never called plays in the NFL, so I try to watch it when I criticize play calling. But there were several things. Hugh Freeze, his biggest problem at Auburn was he was never able to get quarterback right. But a second, not too far behind that, was he wasn't putting his athletes in best positions for them to be successful. So with a guy with Ashton Daniels coming over from Stanford, there was a lot of things that he did with him and Jackson Arnold that just didn't make sense. So I feel like they did get a bump in that way with the new play caller, where we got to see an Auburn offense that we hadn't seen at all under Hugh Freeze. So again, you're going to look at this, and the casual fan will say, "Well, you went to overtime with a 4-5 Auburn team." Well, what just happened with Indiana and Penn State?
Right.
That game came down to the wire. A team that's lost 6 straight, they fired their head coach as well.
Yep.
It's college football.
Look at Oregon and Iowa. I mean, Iowa's always going to drag you into the mud, and it's going to be a rock fight. That is how Iowa plays. But Oregon, you lose that game, all of a sudden, 3 Big Ten teams is no longer a lock, right? Like Ohio State and Indiana, they're going to be in. I don't see many games the rest of the way to worry about. And even if they lost a game, they'd be fine. But a 2-loss Oregon, if you start comparing resumes of a 2-loss Oregon and some of the 2-loss SEC teams, maybe a 2-loss Notre Dame who could be on the bubble at the end of the year, like Oregon may not end up on the right side of that. Their best win would be Penn State, right?
Yeah, either that or Iowa. I'd probably say that Iowa win.
Well, right. I'm saying if they had lost to Iowa.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
Your best win would be Penn State, and you'd have 2 losses. Yes, both against ranked teams, but I think you start to question whether Oregon would end up in the playoff at the end of the year. They were able to escape. Did you watch the end of game day on Saturday, Parker?
Yeah, I did.
Do you see what Kirk Herbstreit said? He almost guessed it.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think it was 18.
He said
16,
he said 16-15 was his final score. He said Iowa's going to win 16-15, and Oregon kicks the field goal to win it.
He was close.
18-16. He almost had it exactly
right.
I
actually watched the entirety of that football game, and I was just mesmerized by how bad Iowa's offense was until late, because it was like they forbid themselves from getting more than 3 yards of play, and it was just oh my gosh, it was so depressing to watch. But they turned it on the last 2 minutes. I don't know.
Yeah, it's Iowa football for you. The Hawkeyes almost were able to pull off the upset. But you are right making the point that there are plenty of close calls around the league. They don't ask you how, they ask you how many wins. And Vanderbilt was able to escape with that win against Auburn, showed a lot of grit, a lot of resilience after falling behind early in that game. Do want to say, though, Auburn also did not go away. Like, it's easy for that team, Auburn. Yeah, you got out to an early lead, but Vandy came back. You get the wide open touchdown to Trey Richardson, and Vandy gets right back in the game. They take a 31-24 lead, 31-24 at one point. And 31-23, I should say. I'm going back in my head. But that team did not fold. Auburn kept coming back, kept throwing punches, and got that game to overtime, nearly won it in regulation. And we'll get into the final sequence there of the fourth quarter coming up in the next segment. But that's an Auburn team that kept on fighting, and I think you really saw – we talk about the interim coach bump all the time. The Titans clearly didn't get it under Mike McCoy, but it does happen when a team maybe just needed a change of voice in that locker room. I think Hugh Freeze's message probably got stale. I think there was a feeling that he was on their way out, and DJ Durkin clearly got the most out of his team on Saturday.
Yeah, the guys looked like they really wanted to play for DJ Durkin. Did you hear what he had to say after the game about the transfer portal and other schools are going to come for his players? Did you see that?
I did not see that, actually.
Well, he said that after the game. I thought he was very candid about it, but it just seemed like his team really wanted to win that game. Like they showed no fight. And that's the thing that drives me crazy when people say, once you're out of the playoffs, what do you have to play for? They had something to play for.
Yeah, they played with pride. And it started from even before the opening kickoff. I don't know if they showed on TV the scuffle in the coin toss, but I was doing sideline for the Vandy radio crew, And part of my responsibilities is go out and put the mic in front of the head referee during the coin toss so we can get what happens. And I had to bail out of there before he was done announcing what had happened because Keldrick Falk was going after the Vandy captains, and the Vandy bench erupts and is coming off the sideline. It was Auburn came to play, and they were getting chippy before the game even started. They were offsetting unsportsmanlike conducts. They got thrown from there, but man, it was a very interesting game, and Vanderbilt, I think, feels fortunate to get out of there with a 45-38 win in overtime. Clark Lee even said in his post-game press conference, he said, that is not how I thought that game was going to go, but a win is a win, and you head into the bye week 8-2. You'll try and reset for Kentucky and Tennessee down the stretch. Plenty more to get to on that game. I want to go back to that final sequence at the end of regulation, which almost cost Vanderbilt the game. We'll talk about that coming up next. Also, a couple of officiating quirks in that game that I wanted to talk about. We'll get to that as well. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you want to text or call, our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We'll also talk Titans later on in the show coming out of the bye week, and they got some help in terms of the draft positioning yesterday. Saints, Jets, Dolphins all get wins and helping the Titans move into sole possession of the first overall pick halfway through the year. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you on this Monday morning. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Mondays were made for Macero. Big screens, bold flavors, and all the football action. From queso to kickoffs, this is how Macero does game night. Macero Football Mondays in 12 South. Don't miss a snap. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Coming off the Titans bye week, so we'll get into the two-tone blue later in this show. The big game this weekend in Nashville, Vanderbilt escaping in overtime against Auburn, 45-38 to get to 8-2 on the year and head into the bye week with their college football playoff hopes still alive. The end of that game, regulation, I should say, was interesting. Clark Lee has his team 4th and 1 in field goal range. Auburn out of timeouts with about 1:10 left. Parker, in that moment, what were your thoughts? Did you think send the field goal unit out, make it a 3-point game, and hope you can hold Auburn? Or were you thinking go for it like Clark Lee ended up doing?
Well, when you have a guy like Diego Pavia, I'm a big fan of feel of the game over analytics. I think analytics are important sometimes, but sometimes you just have a certain feel as a coach, and you got to go with your gut on that. When you have a guy like Diego Pavia, I'm going for the win, going to end it.
I was with you. Sitting there watching the game, I was thinking go for it there. First off, yes, you have Diego Pavia, who's proven that he can make plays in the clutch time. You look back, that was 4th and 1. 4th and 1's gone pretty well for Diego Pavia over the last couple of years. The Alabama one last year, the touchdown deep to Junior Sherrill, and then the 4th and 1 play against LSU where he spun out of a tackle, got the play down the sideline, helped win that game. I like the idea of going for it. Also because the defense had struggled, right? Like, Cam Coleman had just mossed a cornerback on back-to-back plays to tie the game at 38. If you kick that field goal and they get the ball at the 25, all it takes is one heave downfield to Cam Coleman and an unbelievable catch, and you might lose that game in regulation. So I like the idea to go for it. You could have run the clock down, sent Brock Taylor out to kick the field goal and win the game. I didn't love the play call. Diego Pavia was the focal point of that defense. Like, all eyes were on Diego. I'm sure there was probably a message sent in from DJ Durkin to his team. Do not let two beat you with his legs, right? If Eli Stowers, who was great, by the way, on Saturday, 12 catches for over 120 yards in that game. If Eli Stowers made a great catch and you get to first down, fine. But I'm sure there was a message of, hey, it's 4th and 1. Do not let Pavia beat you with his legs. And the play call was an option. Pavia goes out to the left. He stumbles. The turf monster kind of got him a little bit, and he goes down. I didn't love the play call, but I did like the idea. You trust your offense that had been great all day. Your defense had struggled. And luckily, your defense was able to hold up and get that game to overtime. But I thought that was an interesting call, but I thought it was the right one to go for it there. Trust your offense to go get you 1 yard. But it did pop into my mind. I understand Diego Pavia isn't the biggest guy, but I hate going, and he doesn't take snaps under center at all, I don't believe. At least I can't remember the last time I saw him take a snap under center.
It's been a while.
But I always hate 4th and 1 in shotgun. I do. And I started to think, I'm like, man, Eli Stowers was a high school quarterback. That dude's massive. Like, rep it in practice a little bit and have Stowers go do a tush push, and you're probably going to get that 1 yard 9 times out of 10. At least that was going through my mind. I'm like, hey, you've got a big guy, Eli Stowers, who at the very least has played quarterback before. He was a high school quarterback. I believe he went to college as a quarterback. Rep it in practice a while, let him take snaps under center, and see if he can just muscle his way forward for a yard.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Again, we both agree with the call to go for it on 4th and 1. Now, the play call, that gets a little, sure, maybe they could have run something different. I'd actually love to ask Clark Lee about that on Wednesday, get his thoughts on that.
Yeah.
I agree. This being in the shotgun on 4th and 1, it's so weird because sometimes too, if you're running the ball on 4th and 1 and you have your running back offset, it would make more sense for them to go in the pistol. That way they have momentum going downfield.
Right.
Whereas if they're starting offset, They don't have any momentum. They have to go sideways to get the snap and then get going downfield. So I get the sentiment on
Yeah,
that.
I hate shotgun on 4th and short. I understand that's the offense for the Commodores is they're in the pistol, they're in the shotgun. There's no in between, but starting I would rather the ball just start as close to the line to gain as you possibly can. And that play obviously didn't end up working out for Vanderbilt, but they do get the win 45-38. Nice little jump pass from Diego Pavia to Cole Spence in overtime. And
very Tebow-esque.
Right. And Pavia, he just kept on making plays. Like, that was maybe one of his best games in black and gold. And he is the kind of player who can give you exactly what you need in a certain game. Like Missouri a couple weeks ago. He didn't play great statistically, but down the stretch when you needed him to extend plays, you needed him to extend drives and get into the end zone one final time to make it 17-10 and win that football game, he was able to do it for you. He was 10 of 19 for 129 yards passing and 1 interception in that game, but he made enough plays to get you a 7-point win. This week against Auburn, they needed him more. The run game wasn't as effective as it typically is for Vanderbilt. They had to win through the air. He goes 75% completion percentage, 377 yards, 3 touchdowns through the air, 112 yards rushing, and a touchdown on the ground as well. I mean, the running backs are crucial to this Vanderbilt offense. Auburn shut it down for the most part, and Diego Pavia took matters into his own hands and had his best game of the season. I don't think he's going to win the Heisman. I think the group at the top has kind of started to separate itself with Julian Sayin at Ohio State, Fernando Mendoza, Indiana, Ty Simpson, Alabama. Those guys are going to be the top 3, but I don't know. I have a hard time believing anyone else is right behind him other than Diego Pavia. And if they invite 4 or 5 finalists to New York, I think Diego Pavia ends up in one of those seats if he finishes this season strong. I don't think he's going to win it, barring just some ridiculous performances over the next 2 weeks against Kentucky and Tennessee. But I think he deserves to be in the conversation to at least have a seat in New York. And for Vanderbilt, yeah, you don't want to take moral victories, but getting a Heisman finalist at Vanderbilt is something that I don't think that Vanderbilt fans had even thought about in a very long time, if ever. And Diego should be right in that conversation with the performance that he had this week. I mean, over the last 2 weeks, he's got over 700 yards passing on over 70% completion, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions, 150 yards rushing, and 2 touchdowns.
Against SEC opponents, nonetheless, who I've heard people say he hadn't thrown for 200 yards against an SEC opponent yet, and he's done it over that in back-to-back weeks. But I hear so many people outside of the Vanderbilt fan base trying to dunk on Vanderbilt. Like, I've talked with my friends in Chicago. I've talked with friends who are Tennessee fans trying to dunk on Diego. And I'm like, don't you understand that we're talking about Vanderbilt in CFP contention? We're talking about a potential Heisman candidate at quarterback.
Right.
Again, this is Vanderbilt. We've never done that before.
And it's tough because the expectations keep getting raised. Like, I say it all the time. If you go back to August and just told Vanderbilt fans, you're going to win 8 games this year, I think all of them would have signed up for it. But right now you're 8-2 and nobody's satisfied because you've still got business to take care of and a chance to get into the college football playoff. It's the bar being raised this high for Clark Lee and this team who lost 10 straight games 2 seasons ago it's crazy. But that's exactly what Clark Lee wants for his program. Is he wants the high expectations because he believes that's where this program can go. Cameron on the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, says, dude, they were on the 25-yard line. That was a terrible call to go for it. That's easy field goal range. But Cameron, you get 1 yard, you can run the clock down, and Auburn doesn't get a chance to go tie it up. That was the thinking there. It wasn't about can they make the field goal. It was about trying to end the game right there and not give Auburn's offense, which had been explosive in that game, a chance to go down and tie it and send it to overtime or win it. That was the thinking from Clark Lee, was if I can get 1 yard, we can kick the field goal with zeros on the clock instead of giving it back to them with a minute and a chance to go right down the field as they had a couple of minutes ago to tie the game at 38. So I like the call to go for it. I wish they had a better play call for it. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Plenty more on college football coming up. 6641, our good friend from Memphis, says, good morning, fellas. It's been an awful weekend. I felt 1,000 emotions over my beloved Memphis Tigers, and no one single emotion was anything good. Probably not bringing the Tigers back up on this show until basketball season.
Man, Tulane had
Tough
their
one.
way through
Yep.
three quarters. Memphis made it a ball game
They
late,
did.
and they had a chance to tie it up, but that fourth down fade from Brendan Lewis just didn't work out.
They did.
Yeah.
And the American chaos is going on, but keep an eye on the Sun Belt. James Madison ranked in the AP poll yesterday. So we've been saying all year, because that's the way it's looked, that the American champion was going to be the group of 5 bid to the college football playoff. And it's still very possible with a lot of good teams in there like Tulane and USF and North Texas. But it's not quite as cut and dry as it was a couple of weeks ago. James Madison making a run there, and maybe they could end up being in the college football playoff. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. It was a crazy weekend of college football. Didn't get quite as many upsets as some of the previous weeks, but did get some and a lot of close calls. We'll go around college football and look at the college football playoff rankings as we'll get a new set tomorrow night as we head towards the middle of November. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you on this Monday. Next man up, 1025 The Game. DVD with Willie Donick, Derek Mason, and Adam Vingen will be broadcasting live at the all-new Circus Sportsbook Kentucky in the Mint Gaming Hall today prior to the Monday Night Football game. Tonight's matchup, Eagles and Packers. Good one tonight. We'll preview that one later on in the show. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. College football this weekend, a week of close calls. We talked about it a little bit earlier. Indiana barely escaping against Penn State. Oregon, a game-winning field goal late against Iowa to keep their loss column at just one. And the ACC gets beat up for the second straight week. If there were any doubts that the ACC is a one-bid league, I think those are over now. ACC last week, Miami, Georgia Tech going down this week. It's the top two ranked teams in the conference, Virginia and Louisville, who both lose to unranked opponents, Wake Forest and Cal. But let's start with that Indiana-Penn State game. I almost got it again, Parker. I almost did. My Monday headline was Penn State beating Indiana. Came up just short by
I was thinking about you during the game.
By a toenail. Indiana escapes. What a catch, by the way. What a catch in the back of the end zone. I don't know how he was able to get his foot back in play because he was hovering out of bounds and somehow maneuvered his body back and almost got both feet down. Like that was almost a catch on Sundays too. That was ridiculous. Nevada Josh even texted in earlier and said some amazing catches this weekend, both in the college and the pros. It was a great weekend for the receivers. That one was easily the best catch of the week, and Indiana escapes. They stay undefeated, not worried about Indiana getting into the playoff. Oregon escapes against Iowa. That one could have had an impact on the college football playoff picture. The one we talked about a lot on Friday, Parker, was Texas Tech and BYU. And Texas Tech took it to them. And you thought that was what was going to happen. You said you thought Texas Tech not only won, but won by double digits. And that game was never really all that close. I want to ask the question about BYU. A one-loss BYU, can you leave them out of the playoff?
I don't think so. But here's the thing. They still have to play Cincinnati in a couple of weeks. So there might be another loss in there. Plus, what happens in the Big 12 championship? Are they going to make it? I don't know. So
yeah,
there's still plenty of chaos that can happen in November. But if it turns out that BYU is a one-loss team, then that means they win the Big 12. So I say no.
Yes. Sorry,
are you saying before the Big
11
12?
and 2? Yes.
11,
let's say they go
2.
to the Big 12 championship and lose again to Texas Tech.
It depends on what happens around them. I still think there are other teams that would get the. I think a 10-2 Vanderbilt might get the benefit of a doubt over BYU. I don't know.
Well, that's where I am because, around here, that's the question is if Vanderbilt wins their last two games, do they get in? And I still think you need a little bit of help, but it's not like it's everybody has to lose. You just need one or two teams to add an extra loss. Notre Dame would be the easiest one. If Notre Dame loses this weekend to Pitt, where game day is going, they're out. Notre Dame at 3 losses is not getting in. So that's what Vandy fans need to be looking for. And in fact, you look, there's a nice little watching schedule for Vanderbilt this weekend. We talked about the Titans winning the bye week with all of the teams in contention for the number 1 overall pick winning. Well, Vandy, let's see if we can win the bye week this week. At 11 a.m., you got Notre Dame and Pitt. Obvious rooting interest there is Pitt. If Notre Dame loses, they're out. Then you got Oklahoma and Alabama at 2:30. You want the Alabama Crimson Tide to win that game at home, get Oklahoma to 3 losses. And then in the late game, you've got Texas at Georgia. You need the Longhorns to lose that game to get their 3rd loss and knock them out. If all 3 of those things happen, Vandy's in a great spot heading down the stretch. Odds are not all 3 of them are going to happen, but even if you get 2, you feel a lot better about Vanderbilt's chances to get in at 10-2. So it's a big weekend. BYU is the interesting one for me now because the Big 12 looking more like a 2-bid league. That Cincinnati game coming up in 2 weeks is the big one to keep an eye on. BYU got TCU and UCF at home in their other 2 games. Not impossible to lose those, but I'm not sure I would count on it. The win, I guess, that's holding BYU up is going to be that Utah win in the Holy War. Like, But outside of that, there's not really an impressive win on this schedule. I mean, here are the other wins for BYU: Portland State, Stanford, ECU, who I guess is fine in the American, Colorado, West Virginia, Arizona, Iowa State. Like the resume isn't great, but they do have a good win against Utah. If they beat Cincinnati, that would be 2. That one would be the one that I think keeps the committee up at night, is if it comes down to a 5th SEC team or an 11-2 BYU, who gets in. And again, we've talked about they don't want to punish teams for losing in their conference championship. So that might be the one that keeps the committee up at night late, is if it comes down to, let's say, a 10-2 Vanderbilt or a 10-2 Texas versus an 11-2 BYU who lost in the conference championship. I don't know which way they would lean.
Yeah. And that's the thing with BYU. It was so tough to get a read on them before that Utah game, and I'm really interested to see what the playoff committee does tomorrow night with Utah and BYU, because BYU has the head-to-head, but Utah is ranked 13th. So they're kind of telling you what they think about the Big 12, where there are 3 legit teams in contention for the playoff in that conference. But again, man, November is a crazy month, and it is a long year for some of these teams that are on the cusp of the playoff. We see that with ACC. We saw that with Virginia and Louisville and teams like that. They're so close to the playoff, but the air starts to get a little bit tighter once you get to November. And can you maintain that same success that you had in the first 3 months of the year?
Yeah, that's the big question, is can you just take care of your own business? And you look at these games and say, oh, this team should win that one, and this team should win in against Cal, and Louisville should win again, or excuse me, they were against Cal. UVA should win against Wake Forest, but they didn't. And that opens the door for teams like Vanderbilt to make their way into the playoff if they can win their last couple of games. Now, Vandy has to take care of business too. Auburn nearly beat them, which would have ended any hope at a college football playoff spot. Kentucky, man, did Kentucky look good against Florida this past weekend? So Vandy coming off the bye in a couple of weeks, going to have to be able to beat Kentucky, which they'll be favored in that game. But nothing's given to you, especially in the SEC. If Vandy can get to 9-2, you head to Knoxville with a chance to get yourself into the playoff. The college football playoff rankings tomorrow are going to be very interesting, because you look at Indiana at the top. Do they slide a little bit? Maybe Texas A&M bumps up to number 2 in the country after a pretty impressive win against Missouri, albeit with the backup quarterback for the Tigers. How far does Oregon fall? Do you maybe see Oregon drop a couple of spots after fighting against Iowa? I don't know. I wouldn't think so. How far does Vanderbilt rise? Vandy was right behind Louisville and Virginia. I guess they move past them. Does Vanderbilt pass BYU, who's 8-1? I think that's what you have to look at right now, is the resumes aren't going to change a ton for BYU down the stretch. Vanderbilt could get an impressive win on the road against Tennessee, who might still be ranked. If Vanderbilt's ahead of BYU this week, that's a precedent that you set moving forward. There's so much to be sorted out down the stretch in the college football season. I'm excited to see how this week turns out, because again, for Vanderbilt fans, if you want to win the bye week, just like the Titans did this week, and I know Joe Rexroad might be punching air with me saying bye week over and over. I did hear Clark Lee say bye week, not open week.
Why does Joe not like the term bye week?
He doesn't. He said it's an open week or idle.
Okay.
I mean, I get it.
Did he explain why he hates that term?
I get a bye, I guess, is technically you're advancing in a round of you're advancing. Right? And then idle or open just means you're off. I don't know. We'll need Joe to explain it, but
okay.
There is some sort of pet peeve with saying bye week. I did hear Clark Lee say it this weekend though, so I'm going to stick with Clark. The bye week, if Vandy wants to win, you've got 3 games. You can park on your couch and watch all of them and have a significant rooting interest in all of them, because legitimately, every win you get knocks a team out in front of you, with Notre Dame, Texas, Oklahoma. Those are the 3 teams that are currently holding, or they'll be close to holding spots that you need to pass to get into the college football playoff. All 3 of them are playing ranked games this weekend. Notre Dame against Pitt. I think the Irish are going to be favored in that one, but Then you got Texas and Oklahoma both going on the road to higher ranked teams in Alabama and Georgia. Flip flop that. Texas at Georgia, Oklahoma at Alabama. So those are games that Texas and Oklahoma are likely going to be underdogs in. Every single one of those wins against those teams ends up moving you up a rung in the college football playoff rankings in the bye week. So Vandy they may not be playing this week, but an opportunity to get some wins in their college football playoff hopes. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. 6641 says the Memphis Tigers with 2 losses not getting in. Yeah, sadly.
Unless they win the American, which it seems unlikely at this point that they'll even be in the game.
There could
so
be
I don't know.
chaos, but if a 2-loss team gets into the American championship game, the American may not be the team getting the college football playoff
The
spot.
American is carnage right now. There are like 5 teams that are tied for first.
Yeah, and let's see. How does their schedule line up this week? Are there any big games in the American?
For Memphis, I think Memphis still has to play Navy. They play Navy at the end of the year. I think they have East Carolina in there as well.
Yeah, so you've got
8-2, so they have 2 games left.
You've got some big games this weekend. South Florida Navy, that's an elimination game in the American. Navy did get blown out by, or not blown out, I should say. They covered.
I guess they did cover.
But Navy hosting South Florida this weekend. Both those teams have 1 loss in the conference, so that's an elimination game.
USF traveling to cold weather.
Right, and that could be interesting. Byron Brown's been great for that team, though. Memphis, East Carolina. The Pirates sneakily still have just 1 loss in the conference. We'll see if they're able to keep it that way this week against the Tigers. And then Tulane, who I would say is probably the favorite. You know, you could argue North Texas and South Florida are in there as well. They're hosting Florida Atlantic this weekend. So the American still with plenty to sort out for what could be, likely to be, the college football playoff spot out of the group of 5. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. College football is the best, and we are into November. Lots to be sorted out. Vanderbilt with college football playoff hopes with 2 games left to go coming up after the off week. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you on this Monday. We'll wrap up hour number 1 on the other side here on Next Man Up, 102.5 The Game. 94.9 The Fan is your home for Vanderbilt women's basketball. Today, the Commodores take on Furman at 6 o'clock. Pregame starts at 5:45. Excited for that one. Got a win in the opener in Paris a week ago today. Vandy taking on Furman tonight in the home opener. Michaela Blake's, again, I always like to plug it. If you haven't been out there to Memorial Gym to see Michaela Blake's play in person, plenty of opportunities starting tonight. 6 o'clock tip-off. And again, if you can't make it out there, listen in 94.9 The Fan at 5:45. Wrapping up the hour here. And a couple more thoughts on Vanderbilt football. The Commodores are going to be doubted because of the logo on the side of their helmet. And I was already seeing a bunch of stuff midway through the game again on Saturday, just basically saying, oh, same old Vanderbilt. And the Commodores roar back and get the win and stay alive. And even after the game, you're seeing the comments of, oh, well, it doesn't count. It was an overtime win against Auburn. All wins count the same. And I think you could tell Vanderbilt desperately needed this week off coming up. Like they were getting tired. That was 4 straight games against tough opponents. LSU, Missouri, Texas, and Auburn in 4 straight weeks. Vandy, I think you could see the defense getting a little gassed out there at times. Wasn't tackling quite as well as they were early in the season. I think they need this week as a hard reset to get ready for Kentucky and Tennessee. And if you go 2-0, there's a pretty good chance that you're in the college football playoff.
Yeah, no, I think the bye week comes at a perfect time for this team because Kentucky, yeah, they're towards the bottom of the SEC, but the SEC, any given week, it just, unless it's Arkansas, even Arkansas has given people challenges this year.
Yeah.
I was in Knoxville when Arkansas took Tennessee to the ropes. So the SEC week in and week out, there are no breaks. And even an Auburn team who just fired their coach, we see what they're capable of offensively.
Yeah.
So I think this bye week for Vanderbilt comes at the perfect time. You have Kentucky that's coming off of a big win over a rival. Kentucky, if they rope you into playing their style of football, they're a dangerous team. So
yes, they are.
I think Vanderbilt's bye week comes at the perfect time.
No, sure. I mean, and Kentucky, if you had to pick a team or two that you'd want to face to stay alive in the college football playoff in the SEC, Kentucky would be one of them, right? Like it's not like you're facing Georgia. It's not like you're facing Texas A&M or Ole Miss, but everybody's dangerous in the SEC. And we saw that this week, just taking Florida behind the woodshed. Kentucky does play this weekend. It's a home game against Tennessee Tech, as most of the SEC is getting their late season tune-up games in. Tennessee's playing New Mexico State this weekend. So lots of those over the next 2 weeks. But then Kentucky comes down to Nashville to take Vanderbilt. That is an afternoon kick from First Bank Stadium on the 22nd. Before we wrap up hour number 1, did want to give a quick shout out over on West End to Vanderbilt Soccer, who took home the SEC championship yesterday. Unbelievable game, if anybody out there caught it. They played LSU. LSU took a lead in the first half. Vandy was able to tie it up about halfway through the second half. They went all the way to penalty kicks, went 10 rounds in PKs before Vanderbilt finally was able to get the win. They got a couple of saves early on in penalties to stay alive, and then won in 10 rounds. First SEC championship for Vanderbilt soccer since 2020. The goal is to try and get Darren Ambrose on again tomorrow. I know you guys had him on while I was gone, but they have now won, I want to say 8 straight matches, dating all the way back to September 26th. They haven't lost a match since September. So I did want to give a quick shout out to them on winning the SEC championship. The selection show is this afternoon for the tournament, so we'll find out where their NCAA tournament hopes lie later on. I believe 3 o'clock is when they're announcing the bracket.
Did I see they were ranked second in the country before?
They were second in the SEC.
Second in the SEC.
Let me take a look at the women's soccer.
I thought
rankings.
I saw something about them being second in the country. I'm like, huh.
So they're 4th in the RPI. They are 8th in the country based on the latest polls, but that was before the SEC tournament. So could be moving up. I think what I've seen is they're likely going to be a 2 seed.
That's what I saw. I saw the 2 next to their name. If they're playing in the tournament.
Right. They would have been.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. That was because they were the 2 seed in the SEC tournament, but likely going to be a 2 seed on the 2 seed line in the in the NCAA tournament. Again, the bracket comes out later today. So I'm going to see if we can get Darren Ambrose on tomorrow to talk about his team, because Really special stuff what they're doing. And Vanderbilt, in soccer especially, is one of those sports where if you get hot at the right time and head into the tournament, you can find yourself winning a national championship. It was a couple of years ago, the national champions in men's and women's soccer was like Marshall and Santa Clara. So it's not like football where 9 times out of 10, the better team is going to end up winning. Sometimes it just takes a couple of bounces going your way. And right now, Vanderbilt is one of the best teams in the country. So they'll have an opportunity to go play for a national championship. And we're going to see if we can get Darren Ambrose on tomorrow as they get ready for the NCAA tournament.
Congratulations to them.
Yeah.
Hope they do well.
Winning an SEC championship is not easy in any sport. And they were able to get it done. That there's a lot going right on West End for Vanderbilt sports right now. We will talk some college hoops later on in the show. Look at what Vandy men's basketball has done in their first 2 games this year. Hitting the century mark in both of their first 2 contests. 105 points against UCF on Saturday.
Also got to talk about Alabama and St. John's on
Yes,
Saturday. That was a thriller.
We will get to that as well. Lots of great college basketball. And I hate the crossover season allows a lot of these games to fall through the cracks. Like, especially Vanderbilt men's basketball on Saturday. The scheduling, you can't control it, but it worked out so horribly that Vandy men's basketball and Vanderbilt football, they got started at the exact same time. So it was disappointing that you couldn't really pay much attention to that, but Mark Byington's got them rolling. 2 games into the season, 103 against Lipscomb, 105 against UCF.
Rolling.
Crazy.
Yeah, Fraser, this was the day before you got back from Paris, but when we were filling in for you on Tuesday, we actually asked the question, when do you really start paying attention to college basketball?
Right.
Because now with the playoff lasting so long, I think the national championship is on January 19th. So people will probably start really paying attention to college basketball after the Super Bowl is over. And by that point, it's mid-February. And then March, they start playing the conference tournaments and then March Madness. So when do people I hate the crossover season
Me
as well,
too.
because college basketball is awesome.
It's tough to give the flowers to college basketball that it deserves because it is so entertaining to watch, but there is so much going on throughout the fall with college football, NFL football. It's like you look up and it's February before you can even really start giving it your full and undivided attention. So really want to give a shout out to some of those games coming up later on in the show. But we will get into the Titans coming up next. They didn't play yesterday, but they were able to get some wins for their draft hopes to get to the number 1 overall pick. Pretty much everything that could have gone right for the Titans yesterday did. We'll get into it coming up next. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you on this Monday. Next Man Up, 102.5 The Game. Second hour, next man up, 1025. The game, Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly. Monday edition of the program. We are broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Into the NFL here in hour number 2. Titans did not play yesterday. The much-needed bye week. Maybe not as much for the team, but for the fans to not have to watch the game yesterday. And second win of the year for the Titans. It doesn't count in the actual standings, but it felt like a win yesterday, the way the rest of the results went around the league. You got the Saints getting their second win of the season. The Jets got their second win of the season, despite having like 54 passing yards on the day. They had a punt return and a kick return touchdown to get that win.
They couldn't throw the ball because it was pouring down rain too.
Right. I mean, that was a hilarious game to watch. And I have a close friend who's a Jets fan, and I was texting him like Jets every time they scored, and he was not happy because he wants them to tank for the number 1 pick. But the Jets do get the win. The Dolphins beating the Bills, not even close yesterday, by the way. Something's up with the Bills, and we'll talk about that later on in the show. But the Bills have not been good over the last month, except for that win over the Chiefs last week, which has been the one outlier of some bad performances for Buffalo. But the overarching message from yesterday is the Titans have the number 1 overall pick in the draft right now if the season ended today. It doesn't. There's a long way to go, but the Titans are now the only team in the NFL with less than 2 wins, standing at 1-8. New Orleans and New York, the Giants that is, are 2-8. Cleveland, the Jets, and Las Vegas are 2-7. Everybody else has at least 3 wins on the year. So when you're looking at things that could have gone right for the Titans yesterday, almost everything did. The Giants blew what would have been a perfect weekend as they did end up falling to the Chicago Bears. Despite leading 20-10 late in that game, they gave up a couple of late touchdowns and lost to fall to 2-8. But if you're looking at this now, yeah, Cleveland is 2-7. They did lose that game to the Jets, so they're back into this discussion for a potential top pick. But the Jets with 2 wins, Saints with 2 wins, you've only got the 1. It is looking more and more like that Saints game coming up on December the 28th could decide who ends up picking number 1 overall in this year's draft.
See, I'm torn on how I feel about this because, yes, for fans, you didn't have to watch the Titans lose. So, in a way, it was a good weekend. But this team is in position to pick number 1 overall for the second straight year in a row, which means, as of right now, you're the worst team in the NFL. As
that shouldn't shock anybody.
I know, but here's what I'm trying to say. As a competitor, I don't want that.
Right.
And it drives me crazy that people root for their team to tank. I don't like it because it means that the Titans are the worst, and I don't want it to be that way.
Yeah, and it felt good yesterday being able to root for draft positioning without having to root for the Titans to lose, right? Like that's how you should go about it if you're a Titans fan right now, is root for your team to win. They're still probably not going to win very much, but you can always root for the other bad teams around the league to win and help out your draft positioning. So yesterday felt nice where it didn't feel as icky to root for the number 1 overall pick because you didn't have to personally root for the Titans to lose.
And I feel like, too, I want to say Mike Borgonzi or Brinker or somebody has spoke on this before, but I guarantee if you were asked them how it feels to have the number 1 overall draft pick, they wouldn't say it feels great.
Right.
But you could trade it and get more capital, which can help the team, but no one wants to be picking first overall because it means you're the worst.
No, I'm sure that there was no one in that building who at the beginning of the year was thinking, let's draft number 1 again. No one wants that, but you have to look at the situation that you're in. You're 1-8. You're not going to win out. And even if you did win out, you still may not make the playoffs. So what you got to root for in a general sense is to get the highest draft pick possible. I don't know if that means that you should be personally rooting against your own team while they're playing on Sundays. But overall, the best thing for this franchise is to end up with the highest pick possible. And there is no better position to be in as an NFL team than picking first overall when you feel like you already have your quarterback, right? Because that opens up so many doors for you. whether that's taking the best player available. There's going to be plenty of players at the top of the draft who are worthy of a high pick, whether that's on the edge. I know that Ruben Bain has been brought up a lot. Arvell Reese from Ohio State is another dynamic player. So those are guys that you could get. But odds are somebody's going to want to come up and take a quarterback, and you can get yourself a haul, especially with some of these teams and the draft capital that they have. Like, this quarterback class hasn't ended up being quite as good as you expected it to be. Heading into the year, I mean, the names were just off the charts of who you thought might be available towards the top of the draft at quarterback. And it is definitely not as good as you thought it would be. I'm trying to come up. I saw a list of all of the names that were being talked about at the beginning of the year, and it has just imploded for the Titans. Excuse me, for the NFL. I couldn't find it. But you do look around, and there are names that are being discussed. I did see this weekend that Dante Moore, the rumors are that he's going to be heading back to Oregon.
That would not surprise me in the slightest.
So
not surprise me.
And I don't know if he's being discussed as a top 5 pick right now. Like he might end up in that discussion if he decided to come out. I know the traits are there and he has played well, but I don't know if he's up there. But Fernando Mendoza, Ty Simpson, those are the two guys that you're looking at and saying they probably end up being the first and second picks in the draft. So if the Titans end up in those spots, you look around and you say the Jets have 5 first-round picks in the next 2 years. You could either get 2 this year or 1 this year, 1 next year to move back. And that is the easiest way to build this roster back up, is getting more picks in the first round, right? Like that, it seems simple enough, but the only way to do that is to be in a position where a team wants to come up and take your pick. It could be the Jets. It could end up being the Browns. And I'm looking at the Browns' little stash of draft picks. And after what the Jaguars did yesterday, I wonder if that pick ends up being towards the top half of the draft, even though they are 5-4 on the year. Maybe that's the trade you want to do, is you take the Browns 2 picks. You're picking, let's say, 4th and 15th, and you can go get one of the top edge rushers, whether that's Bain or Reese, and you can get a wide receiver like a Carnell Tate, or I doubt Jordan Tyson falls that far, but it's way too early for all of that. The Titans, I understand you don't want to root for your team to lose, but the best thing for this team is to get the highest pick possible. Indy Ben on the text line says, sounds like loser talk to me. And Indy Ben, as a Colts fan, you can say that right now. It is loser talk. I would much rather be talking about what the Titans need to do after the bye week to make a run and get into the playoffs. But we're not there right now. And the Titans need to get as much high draft capital as they possibly can. And I'm not going to personally, when they put the ball down on Sundays, I'm personally not going to be rooting for the Titans to lose. But yesterday, I was very much so rooting for all those teams in contention for the top pick to win, because the easiest way for the Titans to get better fast, and there's not a whole lot of patience in this fan base, as has been exemplified by the reaction to Cam Ward. There's not a lot of patience. If you don't want this rebuild to take another 2 or 3 seasons, you need to find more draft capital at the top of the draft this year and in 2027. And the only way to do that is to get a high pick and trade out of it.
If you're at the Titans, you have to feel good about drafting Cam Ward, considering what the talk was about this quarterback class, this upcoming quarterback class, and where it is right now, because Fernando Mendoza, Ty Simpson, they're clearly 1 and 2, but they might be the best ones, because if you look around, Cade Klubnik doesn't have that same shine. Garrett Nussmeier got benched on Saturday in place of Michael Van Buren. Drew Aller, nope. So a lot of these guys, that same appeal, even Lenore Sellers, I was thinking about that this weekend. Yeah, physically and athletically, he has all the tools that you want, but he's been struggling a lot this year. So if you're the Titans, you have to feel good that you went out and you got your guy last year. But if you get that number 1 overall pick, I'm 100% trading it and trying to turn it into 2 first-round picks.
Yeah, and you do need a dance partner. That's always part of this is you got to have somebody who is going to give you what you want to come up. The King's ransom doesn't just get put on your plate as soon as you clinch the number 1 overall pick. But it is trending in the direction, at least based on what we've seen. And I know that there was another poll put out there. We talked about the poll early in the season of what quarterbacks would you take number 1 overall? And Lenora Sellers was the name that was thrown out there. I think Sellers is going back to school. Maybe not South Carolina, but he's going to go back to school. And he's kind of fallen off in terms of where he might get drafted. Fernando Mendoza is the name right now. And I don't know if I believe Fernando Mendoza is going to be a successful NFL quarterback. I probably haven't watched enough of his games. I've seen a few games of Fernando Mendoza, but it's not like I'm watching every single play. I don't know if I believe he's going to end up being that kind of guy, but all you need is one other team to believe that. And with the enhanced draft capital that some of these quarterback needy teams have, they might be more willing to give up more to come up and take that pick from you. So I hate it. I don't want the Titans to have the number 1 pick back-to-back years. That's never where you want your franchise to be. But the situation you're in right now, where you're 1-8, that's the best thing for this franchise moving forward. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll get to some of your text coming up on the other side. The Titans winning the bye week yesterday with almost everybody that they needed to get a win to help their draft stock ended up pulling it out. The Dolphins, the Saints, the Jets all get into the win column. Titans, as sad as it is, are all alone at the top of the draft right now. 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you on this Monday. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you on this Monday. Titans off yesterday. Did not play in week 10. They'll be back against the Texans at Nissan Stadium on Sunday, but it felt like a win yesterday. It did. Sitting through, I was watching Red Zone for really the first time this year, just sitting there and watching Red Zone all day, and everything just kept coming up Titans. The Jets finding a way to win. The Saints winning their second game of the season. The Dolphins beating up on the Buffalo Bills. And the Titans now in sole possession of the number 1 pick. Could have gone a little bit better if the Giants picked up win number 3, but, Bears ended up coming back and winning that game in Chicago. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Let's go to our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Our friend Trey has called in. Trey, good morning. What's up?
Good morning, buddy. How you doing?
Doing great.
Hey, I was listening to the broadcast on Saturday, and you did a great job, buddy.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Wonderful job. Hey, and I think you brought them. Thank you, honey. I think you brought them some good luck.
Maybe so. Having me down on the sideline, they're now 1-0 this year. Although Kevin Ingram is 5-0 at home as the sideline reporter. So
hey, you know why they won for you? Because they knew you was gonna drag them all week if they would have failed. And that drop pass, whoever thought that drop pass would win it for them? And I wonder what kind of return does that play bring every single time? And when I think of that play, I think of Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. They ran that play so much, and it's just remarkable what Coach Lee is doing over there at Vanderbilt. And I love them guys. I love y'all. Y'all have a good day.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Trey. I was fun on Saturday, getting to be down there on the sidelines. Great environment on Saturday. And, Auburn fans, they showed up. There was plenty of blue and orange out there, but I thought that was one of the best Vanderbilt crowds we've seen in a while. And when the sun went down and the game got late and it was tight, I really thought that was a legit SEC environment that we saw on Saturday night between Auburn and Vanderbilt, and that was a lot of fun to be a part of. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. Let's get back to the Titans here. Titans with a bye week this week, but again, they moved up in the draft order. Lots of help in terms of trying to secure the number 1 overall pick. 6641 says, called in Friday when you asked, do you root to tank or do you root to stay competitive? And he said that it's not about tanking. We don't have to tank to get number 1. We can win 1 or 2 more games, and just based on other teams, even that would be good enough. And it's a good point that he makes, that you never know what's going to happen in the NFL. It is very difficult to lose every single game in the NFL, right? We saw that with the Titans against the Cardinals. They did not play very well, right? Like they really didn't, but they got a couple of breaks down the stretch. They made enough plays in the fourth quarter to go win a football game. So that it happens in the NFL all the time. Yesterday, the Jets had nothing going on offense, but they got 2 return touchdowns, and that's enough to win the football game. I would expect the Titans to at least win 1 more game this year, but that still might be enough to get you the number 1 overall pick. Last year, 3-14 was enough to get you the number 1 overall pick. So it's a good point from 6641. Chip from Mount Juliet says, need to 100% trade back next draft and accumulate draft picks. Hindsight is 2020, but should have done that this year. Well, and again, I made this point last week that look at the draft class for quarterbacks this year. Where would you put Cam Ward significantly behind Mendoza or Simpson, if at all? Like, I think as prospects, Cam Ward would probably be right up there to be the number 1 overall pick again this year. So yeah, maybe you say you should have traded back, but the Titans might be in the position where they get Cam Ward, who could end up being the best out of all of them. Again, underwhelming through his first 9 games, but still a long way to go. And you can still get the haul that you were hoping for last year, and maybe even more, from a team that could be more desperate than the Giants were. Mike in Lebanon says there is a history now of teams tanking and getting rewarded for it, so it's a legitimate strategy. There's no tanking strategy going on.
Like, I promise, no team goes out there and intentionally loses games.
Right.
Unless you're involved in some sort of under the ground betting scheme, and like we're seeing.
Yeah, that's true. Unless Emmanuel Clase is running your team, you're not intentionally tanking. And
you got Terry Rozier out there. I don't know. That's the only reason any of these teams would be intentionally tanking. I promise it does not happen.
And you've watched the Titans play. They don't have to intentionally tank. They're just that bad. Like, they're going to lose most of the games they go out there and play because the talent is not there and the coaching is not there. But they're still probably going to find a way to win another game. They still play the Browns. They still play the Saints. They still play the Texans again. They play the Jaguars twice. Like, those are all games that they can go out and win. Will they win all of them? Definitely not. But they're going to find a way to win one. Nevada Josh says after the Browns lost to the Jets, they should put Sanders out there to give him some trade value. I don't know about trade value. Here's a 5th round pick, but I think you put Sanders out there to see what you've got. Because as I mentioned earlier, the Browns have 2 first-round picks this year. Both of them likely going to be in the top 20 at the very least. You want to know what you have in your young quarterbacks in Gabriel and Sanders before you decide what you're going to do with this next year's draft. So I kind of agree that it might be perfect timing up there in Cleveland soon for Shedeur Sanders to get into the game. Unless you like what you're seeing from Dylan Gabriel, I don't know. I don't think he's looked all that impressive, but we'll see what Kevin Stefanski wants to do up there. 4405 says Titans going to put BTA on Long Neck Mills and Tyler Shuck. We don't know if CJ Stroud's going to play on Sunday. We'll get into that in a little bit here. He also asked, did you get a what's up, brother from Sketch on Saturday? I did not, but he did walk by me multiple times. I tried to stay professional and not and it's not like I know Sketch all that much. I knew who he was. But yes, he did walk by me multiple times. Richie from White House says, assuming the Titans secure the number 1 pick in next year's draft, they may opt to trade back to accumulate additional draft capital. In doing so, could they also explore acquiring not only draft picks, but also a skilled position player to fill essential positions that will require attention during the next offseason? If so, which teams could offer the best draft picks and skilled players, the Jets, Saints, or Giants? Giants, I don't think will come up. Maybe the Browns would be an answer. But I like the point from Richie from White House because there are 2 players I'm thinking of, both former Ohio State receivers that may be looking for a change of scenery that could be included in a trade like that. I wouldn't hate it.
I don't imagine they'd want to go from New Orleans and New York to Tennessee for a change of scenery.
Well, I'm just saying, like, the team might want to get rid of him. Like we saw the Jets just got rid of Sauce Gardner. In order to keep some of their draft capital, do you include a Garrett Wilson or a Chris Olave in those trades? Would the Titans want that?
I would not be opposed.
Or would the Titans want that, or would they want to just pick their own player, right? Like, that's the question that for Mike Borgonzi is, do you want the more established Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave that you're going to have to pay more? Or do you want to take the extra draft pick and maybe take a young guy that you feel like you can develop? A little bit riskier on that side, but the reward might be higher. I don't know. But that's a good point from Richie from White House. Maybe if the Jets are picking 5th and the Titans are picking 1st and their offer is a 1st, a 2nd, and Garrett Wilson, I wouldn't hate that. Would I prefer more draft picks? Maybe. But that's a question for Mike Borgonzi. Do you think that the established veteran wide receiver is more valuable, or another pick that you could go out and get a young player? That's the question. 7410 says, not worried about tanking. I want to see progress from Cam. That's more important than anything else at this point. And that was the question we asked on Friday, was what are you rooting for? Do you want this team to just lose as much as possible, or would you rather see the young quarterback and the young pieces around him develop enough that they can start winning football games? And I think it's in between. You'd love for this team to go off and reel off 7 out of their last 8 and show promise. It's unlikely to happen. I think you need to see Cam Ward and this team win at least one more football game. I think Cam Ward needs to win another football game.
That could be the case. Listen, even the team had 3 wins last year and was still picking 1.
Right.
So there's a good chance if you win 2 this year, you're probably still going to be picking 1.
Right. And I did hear Trey say that he wants to see Cam Ward win back-to-back games. We are approaching the 3-year mark on the calendar since the last time the Titans won back-to-back games. A week from today will be 3 years since Todd Downing's night in Green Bay, where the Titans won the second game in 5 days. They beat the Broncos on Sunday, beat the Packers on Thursday.
That was the last time I felt good about the Titans, too.
They have not won consecutive games since that day. So winning back-to-back games going to be a tall task. I heard Trey call into Robbie and Rex Road asking for that. But winning 2 games the rest of the way, I don't know. It's not impossible. I think you could win on Sunday. And we'll talk about that coming up next. I think Sunday is an opportunity to win a football game. Although the Texans, they look like one of the best teams in football down the stretch there as they came back from way down against the Jaguars to get a win. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Matthew in Nashville asking, do you have any reservations about Olave's concussion problem? Yes, I do. And that was just the 2 names that popped into my head of teams that might want to come up for a quarterback and have players worth trading. I would say I would take Garrett Wilson from the Jets. I don't know if I would take Chris Olave from the Saints, although he was a big part of their win yesterday. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. More coming on the Titans. They take on the Texans on Sunday. How healthy are these 2 teams going to be? We'll get into it next. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Halfway through the show on this Monday, Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you, talking Titans. We'll have a big picture NFL conversation in the final hour of the show and talk some college hoops. But this Sunday, the Titans back in action after the off week, taking on the Houston Texans for the second time this season. And the last time it did not go well for the Titans, a 26-0 loss in Houston. Score maybe doesn't tell you the story about how close that game was for most of the game, but still a shutout loss down in Texas back in week 4. So second chance against Houston. And the big question is, how healthy are these two teams going to be? Titans coming off the bye week. Could you see Jeffrey Simmons? Could you see Calvin Ridley return to the lineup? And Calvin Ridley has been a disappointment for how much money you're paying him, and especially this season with all of the talk of the connection between him and Cam Ward and the lack of results between those two. But he does help this offense. He takes attention from some of the younger guys, and if you can run out him, Iamaner, and Chimdike, that's going to give Cam Ward the best chance to succeed. And Jeffrey Simmons, we all know what he is. He has been so good this season when he's been on the field, and hoping that he can be back. That's going to be crucial for the Titans if they want to be competitive in this game. But the most important thing, does CJ Stroud play? And we did see Davis Mills go out there yesterday and played pretty well, helping the helping the Texans come back against the Jags in what was a crazy game in the AFC South. The Jaguars had a chance to get to 6-3, and they blew it. Just absolutely blew it. And Houston gets a win to improve to, I believe, 4-5 on the season. So they're still technically in the playoff chase. CJ Stroud playing could have a big impact on this game. As much as Davis Mills has proven to be a capable quarterback, I really don't think that he's going to instill fear in this Titans defense. There's a chance the Titans could win this game on Sunday. It's not a good chance. There's a chance, especially if the Titans can get some of their key players back healthy and the Texans are once again playing with a backup quarterback.
Yeah, if Davis Mills plays for a second straight week, what are the odds that he's able to replicate what he did versus the Jaguars? I think that the chances are highly unlikely. However, it is the Tennessee Titans, and they're not good. They're the worst team in the league, so anything is possible. But for the Titans, it is important that they get as healthy as they can. Hopefully, Calvin Ridley's back. Bryce Oliver, he's been nowhere to be found.
Yeah,
witness protection.
It's a disappointing season for Bryce Oliver because there was a lot of hope for him, right? Like, I think heading into the year, a lot of people thought he could be the next Nick Westbrook-Akine, and the injuries also having a little bit of a logjam in front of him. Tyler Lockett was on the roster, and you were seeing Van Jefferson get some snaps, and you wanted to see the rookies play. But I was excited to see more from Bryce Oliver this year. We'll see. But yeah, Calvin Ridley possibly coming back from that hamstring injury this week. 6641 says, ew, who wants to see Ridley ever suit up for us again? I don't care what having him does for the other guys. Let that fella stay hurt and cut him after the season. Please don't make me watch him drop 4 balls this Sunday. Calvin Ridley has been disappointing, to say the least, especially this year. Last year, towards the end of the season, you started to see why they paid him so much money to come here, and he just didn't carry it over. And then the hamstring happens. But Cam and Calvin, like that helps Cam Ward to have an experienced wide receiver out there who is talented. Van Jefferson is a fine veteran guy who can make some plays for you, but he's not Calvin Ridley. And you want to make things as easy on your young quarterback as possible. And having Calvin Ridley, a veteran, accomplished receiver on the field, is obviously going to help that. So you got to have Calvin back. Although I want to see more from Alec Iamaner too. He has, after a strong start to the season, he's hit a wall. Drops, miscommunications, just hasn't been quite a playmaker that you thought he might be after the first couple weeks of the season. I'd like to see more from Alec Iamaner too. But getting Calvin Ridley back can only help Cam Ward. And that's what you're trying to do if you're the Titans right now. You want to help your young quarterback. Calvin Ridley does that.
Even if Calvin Ridley is not the Calvin Ridley we knew with the Falcons or even on with the Jaguars, just somebody out there that can catch passes, because you're right. Chimdike has really come on, but Alec Iamaner got off to a fast start, but has kind of regressed since that point. So even just a veteran out there, just somebody to catch passes, that could help Cam Ward tremendously.
Nevada Josh on the text line says, did you see the ticket prices for the Titans and Texans game? Man, I could take my entire family for under $100. That's crazy. Yeah, it's bad. There is not a whole lot of reason to head out and watch this team play on Sundays. Cam Ward would be the draw, but I've thought it's interesting that as a number one pick, the fan base clearly was divided about what to do with that pick. And I think that's led to a lot of the fan base just not embracing we have a young quarterback, let's go out and see him, right? And the lack of patience. You would think that a rookie quarterback who was picked first overall, kind of no matter what happens, fans would want to go out and see him. And that's just not the case. Weather's even going to be pretty good on Sunday, too. It's freezing right now in Nashville. But
yeah, hit a cold snap. I think it was flurrying earlier.
Yeah, I think we are supposed to get a little bit of snow today. Temperatures in the 30s, but it's going to be back in the 70s this weekend. Could be a beautiful day to go out and see some mediocre football, but doesn't seem like anybody wants to go. The ticket prices are low. Matthew in Nashville asks, what is preventing the Titans from calling up Xavier Restrepo from the practice squad to see if he and Cam Ward can recreate their magic in Miami that they had? And that is a question that is going to be brought up a ton throughout the rest of the season. And I am perfectly on board with giving Xavier Restrepo a shot. Like, why not at this point? You're 1-8. Some of the wide receivers you've been throwing out there clearly haven't been good. Tyler Lockett's playing for another bad team at this point. Like, I wouldn't hate giving Xavier Restrepo some run, but the organization is going to tell you how they feel about a player with the moves that they make. And the moves that they've made so far tell me that they don't believe Xavier Restrepo is ready to play in the NFL right now. And that could change, but when you're promoting Mason Kinsey to the active roster over Xavier Restrepo, you know what Mason Kinsey is. And if you don't think that Xavier Restrepo is worthy of a look over Mason Kinsey, then that's telling us that he's not ready to play at the NFL level quite yet.
Yeah, Mason Kinsey is a proven commodity at this point, and for all the people that are clamoring for Xavier Restrepo, yeah, I get it. We all want to see him, but this team promoted Mason Kinsey and then called up James Prochet well before Xavier Restrepo, so that shows you where he is on the depth chart. But yeah,
I wouldn't hate seeing him get a chance. Like, I think you give Cam Ward a guy he's familiar with, and it's a young guy that you got on an undrafted deal. There's no risk involved. Let's see what he's got. But if the team isn't willing to take that chance, then they're clearly not seeing enough in practice to give him that opportunity.
And I think we will eventually see him at some point just to see what he is in a game.
Yeah.
But now is not that time.
You get to the point where you cut your losses. I kind of would be at that point already coming out of the bye week. And maybe that's the case. Maybe on Saturday we see the transaction notification that Xavier Restrepo has gotten the game day activation. But at this point, the Titans have told you how they feel about Xavier Restrepo, and it's not how most of the fan base feels about the undrafted rookie. Chip from Mount Juliet asks, when comparing Cam to this year's quarterback crop, you need to look at their competitors in conference. We all know Cam was near the top of a weak class, but Miami literally played nobody. And I've heard this a lot about, oh, well, Cam was playing in the ACC. You can't judge that. When I watch quarterbacks coming out of college, I'm not really looking at like stats and production as much. That needs to be there, right? Like you can't be a horrible quarterback in college and expect it to translate to the NFL. I mean, Josh Allen had a 52% completion percentage in college and it somehow worked out. But anyway, I'm looking at the throws. And if Cam Ward was making those throws against Louisville, it's the same throw. Like the arm talent is what I'm looking for when you're evaluating quarterbacks and the processing. And I thought Cam Ward checked those boxes. I understand the idea of, oh, he didn't play in the SEC. But look what he did to Florida. Florida had an SEC defense, and he tore them up in the swamp. It's one game, but I don't think you can go and say that you have to just completely disregard the way Cam Ward played because he was playing Louisville and Cal and Virginia Tech. Like, the throws still translate. The arm talent translates. It's just about getting him comfortable and being able to make the right decisions on the field, taking care of the football. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll wrap up hour number 2 after this. I've been waiting to have an off-topic conversation on this show for a while, but you got to pick and choose your spots, especially when there's a lot going on. And let's get to it coming up next. There is a TV show that focuses on our little city here, and I've got to talk about it because it's just that horrible. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Wrapping up the second hour here on Next Man Up 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you on this Monday. Back into the NFL in just a couple of seconds. We'll also talk some college hoops as we are officially a week into college basketball season. But Parker, I've been waiting to have this conversation for a while. Have you seen 911 Nashville?
It's on my watch list, but I have not had
Take
the
it off.
pleasure.
Take it off. Oh, it's horrible. It's like a car crash. I can't look away. Like I've watched the first 3 episodes, I think, and it's so corny and it is cool to watch because it's like, oh, all right, it's in Nashville, and you see some landmarks and stuff like that. They were down at Nashville Shores in the last episode, but oh man, the first episode, there is a scene where a girl is flying a kite in Centennial Park in front of the Parthenon and just flies away. This little kite just takes her away. It's not like it's a parachute, it's a kite. And the CGI showing her flying through the air is maybe the funniest thing that I've ever seen. It's so bad I can't look away. I need like an intervention to stop me from watching this show, because it's like your classic like Grey's Anatomy kind of soap opera about firefighters and like all this stuff. And there's a family dynamic of it, of a long lost son and all this stuff. But it's like that, but 10 times worse. I need an intervention, Parker. I need somebody to stop me from watching this show.
Are you one of those people? Because I have friends like this, that if they start a TV show, they have to finish it.
No,
are you one of those?
I'm not like that, but
okay.
It's like every week I kind of find myself in a spot, and maybe with women's basketball season starting up, and like I'm gonna have way more going on. Maybe I won't have
which would be a good thing.
This moment of weakness where it's like I'm sitting in bed and I'm like, what do I turn on? And it's 911 Nashville. I want to know if there's anybody out there who's seen this show and has any thoughts on
I've
it.
seen billboards on the interstate as I'm driving by for
There's
it.
one right there on 40 that I see every time.
So I had it on my watch list, but I really haven't had a whole lot of time to watch TV shows lately. But I tried to start Chad Powers, and I made it through the first episode, and it was not what I was expecting.
Yeah.
It was like one of those, like, if you want a good laugh, like turn your brain off.
Right.
Watch.
Right.
Kind of like Happy Gilmore too. Like, don't go in expecting too much.
Yes. With Chad Powers, that's what you need to do, is you have to go in expecting it to be kind of stupid and corny, and you might enjoy it. With 911 Nashville, they go into all of like the cliches of Nashville, of like there's a scene where a pedal tavern crashes, and like they have to respond to that because a girl got her leg trapped under it and all this kind of stuff. But the funniest part is the way the tornadoes happen. Like, I understand.
I saw a fire tornado in the commercial.
Yes, there is a fire tornado. And it's like I understand there are tornadoes in this area, and everybody needs to stay vigilant because they can happen out of nowhere, plenty of severe weather. But it's like, I don't know the timeline of this show. It feels like it's all going on in one day, but there's like 8 different tornadoes going around downtown Nashville. One of them takes a guy on a scooter and, he gets impaled by a water tower. Another one hits a Kane Brown concert. And then there's the fire tornado. And then the chief of the fire department or whatever, the main character, gets struck by lightning. And 12 hours later, he's on the pedestrian bridge because an RV got taken up and is hanging from the pedestrian bridge. I understand you got to like turn your brain off and know it's going to be stupid, but it's horrible. And I'm
already very turned off of this show before even seeing it.
Nevada Josh says it's like the show about my town, Reno 911. So I guess is this like an expansion? I knew there was the original 911. I didn't know.
No, I think it is an expansion. There's a 911 just in general TV show. And
okay,
like
so and they're like spreading it out with the
I think there's like a 911 LA. I could be wrong. I'll actually look it up.
4704 says, how about 911 1025? Should we make a soap opera about the radio station?
It would get ratings.
It might.
It would get ratings.
It
That's
might.
for sure.
Mark says, dude was looking for a new show. Tried 911 Nashville. When girl got sucked up by the kite, I laughed out loud. I was out after that.
Hey,
Ridiculous.
okay, so explain this to me. A girl got sucked up by a kite.
It's the whole scene. If I will implore you to watch just that scene because it is so.
Is it on Disney Plus?
Yes,
I may
on
watch it at
Disney
the break.
Plus and Hulu. Yeah.
What episode?
It's the first episode. It's about midway through, and this girl is having her birthday party in Centennial Park in front of the Parthenon, and she's getting all these cool gifts, but her aunt gives her a kite, and she's so excited, and she starts running with the kite, and they were warned about the high winds, and she just gets taken away. It's like this probably like 65, 70-pound girl getting carried away by this tiny little kite, and they can't figure out how to get her down. It made me laugh. That made me laugh out loud. But yes, the rest of it is not good.
So I see. I'm on Disney Plus right now. There's a 911, 911 Nashville, 911 Lone Star, 911 I Was There, 911 or no, that's 911. Yeah, no. There are 3 911 shows that
somebody needs to stop these people. William from Madison says it's so bad it's almost good. Chip from Mount Juliet says Sharknado Nashville is next. That's what I'm wondering, and why I kind of want to keep watching is where do they go next? I feel like they've already done everything. They've hit the pedal taverns. They've done the tornadoes. They had the slide falling apart at Nashville Shores. Like, I feel like they've already hit all of the cliches that you can get through with Nashville. Where do they go next? There was a scene in the latest episode where this girl, she is a model. If you can, like, on the internet, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And she's eating hot chicken and gets asked to jump on her bed, and the bed folds into the wall and she gets crushed. Like, I don't know how they're coming up with this stuff, but they're using every Nashville cliche possible. Jeremy in Clarksville says the commercials made me not want to watch it. Being from Middle Tennessee, it will disappoint me.
Yeah, because normal Nashvillians just eat hot chicken on their bed and jump on the bed and they get folded into the wall.
God, this is bad. 615-737-1025. Dustin from Hopkinsville says, allow texters from this show to be in the show, to be in 911-1025.
Trey would have a healthy role.
Yeah, he says that
in the show.
You will get out of this world ratings. You've got me, Dustin from Hopkinsville, Kenny the mailman, Adam from Portland, Trey. Thank you. And he also has a new idea for the show. The Batman building falls into the river. I bet that's coming. That's probably already been filmed.
That would be wild.
Andrew says, my girlfriend and I love the show. The acting, the realism, the writing, the plot, the CGI, everything. Horrible. It's a caricature of Nashville. I've never seen a more apt depiction of modern Nashville. It's my favorite show on TV. And I knew we would get some of that like this, of people who enjoy it. It is so funny. Devin and Dixon says, you mean to tell me a girl just gets snatched up by a kite in the show? Yes. And that is going to be the lasting impression if you watch the first episode, is this girl just gets blown away by the wind while flying a kite. And they bring the 911 dispatcher on FaceTime and show her just wiggling in the wind, holding on to this kite.
I see. I found the scene. Is it at the Kane Brown concert?
No. It's in Centennial Park at the Parthenon.
Okay.
Well, I will find it for you during the break. We'll take a break. If you guys have any more thoughts,
a nice long break.
We're getting lots of texts about this. We'll get to some of those on the other side. We'll also get back into the NFL. The standings at the midway point of the season do not look the way I thought they would, and that could leave things wide open for some of these teams when we get to the playoffs. We'll do that next. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Final hour, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. We'll talk some NFL, but we got a ton of interaction about 911 Nashville and this show that it's so bad I can't look away, and I got Parker to watch the kite scene. How great is that?
Unbelievable. Unbelievable to say the very least. A girl literally is just it wasn't even a windy day.
She's just running.
And she just gets sucked up into the air.
Running with a kite.
And the kite, like, how?
So funny. And the text line is actually giving me an idea. Everybody text in, what's your idea for a 911 Nashville episode? Because we've got some good ones here. I mean, there are plenty of cliches around the city. They've hit a bunch of them, the pedal taverns, and all this stuff, the hot chicken. But I want to know, what do you think they should do as a 911 Nashville episode? We'll get to those throughout the final hour.
Oh, now they're trying to catch her. They're trying to catch the girl.
They're trying to, they try and make a little like blanket to catch her. Jeremy in Clarksville says they could have an episode where a guy throws a chair off a rooftop and injures someone. Carson, building off of that, says they can have an actor portraying Morgan Wallen throw a chair off a building, have a car explode, and the whole bar is engulfed in flames. That's more like it. That's something 911
That sounds like something that would be featured in the show.
0711 says they will have someone swallowed by a humongous catfish. I could see that. Joel says need some crisis at First Bank and have Pavia and Clark Lee guest star to help rescue people.
That would be a crazy cameo.
That's for season 2. Josh says Vandy fans get hurt taking down the goalpost after winning the national championship.
Someone gets impaled by the goalpost.
Fat Hog in Murfreesboro says Nashville 911 needs to make a show where people are stampeding from a Titans game. Oh, forgot there's no one there to stampede. Yeah, the empty stadium running out.
Nissan Stadium turns into a tornado shelter.
Oh, man, it's really bad. I've been waiting to bring this up on the show because it came out like close to a month ago now. And,
yeah, I remember.
And I remember watching the preview and the premiere, and I was like, we need to talk about this on the show at some point because it is that bad. But we've been busy. Titans, college football. This finally gave us an opportunity. Dustin from Hopkinsville says, Dustin from Hopkinsville has a full-on like script for this episode here. The next one will be the Titans are playing the Chiefs at home Monday night while there's a Jelly Roll concert at Bridgestone. We're up in the 4th by 32. Taylor Swift is in the stands. Trump is there doing his dance, saying, I've always been a huge Titans fan. What is going on? We're about to win. Wild. All we have to do is take a knee, and then there's an F4 tornado that grabs our future franchise quarterback, taking our win, all while the camera is on Tay-Tay. Mahomes screams in his Kermit voice, come on, man. They held me the whole game.
As long as Dustin is the one directing the episode.
I was about to say 911 Nashville writers. If you need someone, there you go.
I will watch.
He's got another one here. Maybe we'll get to that later. Brian says barbecue restaurant catches on fire. They might get to that one. 6180 says they could have a catfish injure someone at a Preds game. Taylor Lewan throws it while drinking. I like that. That's realistic. They already have been inside Bridgestone Arena. They did something with the rodeo in the opening episode. Alden in Nashville says Nashville 911 episode combined threat level midnight from The Office with 911. There is a bomb in the puck at the Preds game, and they have to stop the puck from blowing up Bridgestone. Nice crossover there. 9111 says Woo Girl Zombie Apocalypse. 838, that's Devin and Dixon. I think he's talking about the Pecorine statue comes to life and starts rampaging down Broadway, just taking out Blackhawks fans. All right. I think we've gone officially off the rails on Nashville 911. Plenty of great episodes. Again, if the writers are listening out there, we just gave you the full second season from our text line. So well done to all of you. We'll get to some other ones if they deserve mentioning throughout the show. Did want to talk about the NFL because it's about the midway point. Titans coming off the bye week, and the playoffs, if the season ended today, just looks so funny to me. In the AFC, let's start there. The Indianapolis Colts are the number 1 overall seed, which, To be fair, I keep saying it. I did not believe in the Colts this year, and they continue to prove me wrong. Jonathan Taylor might be the MVP. It's tough to win it as a non-quarterback, but he might be the MVP. The Denver Broncos are 8-2. And I understand it doesn't look pretty with Denver, and I don't know if I believe in them in the playoffs, but that defense is legit. And if Bo Nix can get anywhere close to back to where he was last year, they may have a chance to at least do something.
Here's my argument for MVP, because I do think it should be Jonathan Taylor, and I'm saying this as a former quarterback. Like, it has become a quarterback award.
Yep.
But Jonathan Taylor, they literally mentioned on the broadcast yesterday that he broke a single season record held by Edgerrin James.
Wow.
He's on pace to put up some incredible numbers. I think he's also the first player in NFL history with 3 games with 3+ touchdowns, or 4 games, something like that. He's on pace for some record-setting numbers.
Yeah.
And there isn't a standout, like, never seen before quarterback performance. So that would be my argument for Jonathan Taylor.
Here's what Jonathan Taylor is on pace to do. Right now, he's averaging 6 yards a carry. 6 yards a carry. He's on pace for 1,936 yards and 26 touchdowns on the ground, 442 yards through the air, and 3 touchdowns. Now, I don't know if that's enough to win an MVP, but it at least puts you in the conversation.
It won't be.
I don't think it will be. If you don't give it to guys who get to 2,000 yards, like we've seen Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry over the last 5 years get to 2,000 yards. If you're not going to give it to those guys, I don't think you can give it to Jonathan Taylor, but he at least is putting himself in the conversation if he gets close to 30 touchdowns and if he could get across that 2,000 yard mark.
Yeah, and if he rushes for 2,000 yards, in my mind, I would automatically give it to him, because it is so rare that a running back rushes for over 2,000 yards. It's only happened 9 times in NFL history.
Yep.
So if you rush for 2,000 yards, and the league has been around for a long time, and you become that 10th person to do it, you deserve the MVP in my mind.
In 17 games, to be fair, an extra game from when Derrick Henry did it, and from when, like, Chris Johnson and Adrian Peterson and all those guys. But the top of the AFC standings looks like we're in 2013 again. Indy, Denver, New England, Pittsburgh. Those are your division leaders, with the Chargers, who got a win yesterday over Pittsburgh. Buffalo is in the 6th seed right now, which is crazy considering how they started the year. They have not looked good lately, especially yesterday. And in the 7th spot right now, even with the horrible blown lead yesterday, the Jacksonville Jaguars would be in the playoffs. I get it. There's a long way to go. Lots of football left, but the AFC is wide open. And with every week that passes by, I'm starting to believe more and more in these teams that don't have the pedigree in the playoffs, don't have the preseason expectations. You know, I'm talking about Buffalo and Kansas City and Baltimore. Those are the teams you expect to win in the playoffs. Every week that goes by, they look more and more beatable. You know, the Chiefs have been better lately, but lost last week. Maybe Indy or Denver or New England could make a run. I don't know if I'm counting on it, but with every week that goes by, it starts to look a little bit more likely, right? Like that maybe Buffalo just doesn't have it this year. Maybe the Chiefs just don't have it this year. Say that now, and they're going to prove us wrong when we get to January, as they always do. But those teams that are sitting at the top of the standings right now, they look pretty good. The Broncos need to do more offensively, but the Patriots yesterday, I think, was the most impressive win that I saw. I know the Bucs are banged up, but to go on the road and beat Tampa Bay, who had been one of the best teams in the NFC, that Patriots team is legit. And I don't know if they're going to be able to make a run in the playoffs, but Drake May is certainly in the MVP conversation. And I wonder if maybe that team starts to put themselves towards the top. We've got some conflicting thoughts on Jonathan Taylor winning MVP. Robert says, no, he doesn't deserve it. He being Jonathan Taylor. Derrick Henry did it in 15 games and didn't get it, so no, neither should he. I agree. I think if Jonathan Taylor doesn't reach 2,000 yards, he shouldn't. Sorry, running backs don't win it unless you reach 2,000 yards, and usually they don't win it even if they do reach 2,000 yards. But if he gets 2,000 yards, 25 rushing touchdowns, 500 yards receiving, which it would put him in the conversation with Chris Johnson as the only running backs with 2,500 scrimmage yards. That's a long way to go. He's going to have to keep playing the way he's playing, but he's at least put himself on pace to be in that range. Jeremy in Clarksville says he should be the MVP. Name another player that is contributing this much to their team's playoff chances. Without Taylor, the Colts are not in the playoffs. And it's a fair point, too, that right now there is not an elite quarterback performance this season. May's been good. Stafford has been great. And I think Matthew Stafford may be your MVP frontrunner right
Man,
now.
he's been playing phenomenal.
It's crazy to say.
He's been playing phenomenal.
But he might be your MVP frontrunner.
Him, Drake May, Sam Darnold all have legit arguments. But
none of those guys are putting up record-breaking paces.
Exactly. And Jonathan Taylor is. So that's my argument. And I agree with what the texter said. Like, I thought Derrick Henry should have won it in 2020. I thought Saquon should have won it last year. Because they didn't, I think that goes to show that Jonathan Taylor won't either.
I agree.
But that doesn't mean that I don't think it was right. I think all three of them should have won it.
Taylor has put himself in a spot where if he does continue the pace he's on, which is, it's not easy. He has been on a ridiculous pace. He has a chance at it, but MVPs become a quarterback award, and it's going to be tough for him to win it. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We got a big game coming up tonight. The primetime games have left a lot to be desired lately, but I have a good feeling about tonight's game. Packers-Eagles. We'll talk about it coming up next. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you on this Monday. We'd love to hear from you. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Talking NFL as we are just past the midway point of the 2025 season and went through the AFC standings, and it's just, as it always is in the NFL, it doesn't look the way you thought it would. Lots of teams have overperformed expectations, and you've got a lot of the preseason favorites in the AFC: Buffalo, Kansas City, Baltimore, Cincinnati. Those teams, 3 of them are out of the playoffs as of right now, and the Bills would be a wild card team. But in the NFC, some surprises, but I think the 2 teams that you talked about at the beginning of the year as the top teams in the NFC are still out there. Philly leads the NFC East, and Green Bay, I would argue that they put themselves up at the top of the conference with the Micah Parsons trade. They lead the NFC North. Those 2 teams play tonight. And Seattle right now has the number 1 seed. We'll see if that stands at the end of the day. But this is a huge game for seeding purposes to get that bye, which is all important in the NFL playoffs. Only having to win 2 games to get to the Super Bowl versus 3 games is massive. And I'm excited for this one tonight. I don't know which way it's going to go. Philly has started to look a little bit better after a tough couple of weeks. Green Bay coming off a disappointing loss last week against the Panthers. So this is it's a huge game. I don't know which way it's going to go, but I think we're going to get a good one, which is much needed considering the primetime games have not been great lately. I mean, Thursday night's game, Raiders and Broncos set offensive football back 80 years. And then last night was just a blowout, 25-10. And that took a late garbage time Steelers touchdown.
The Steelers set football back 25 years too with the way they played on offense. It was terrible. So now I have high expectations for this game tonight. I think it'll be really good. And plus, who doesn't love a primetime environment in Lambeau Field? Even if you're not a Packers fan, Lambeau Field's historic and it's a cool venue.
Right.
And it's going to be freezing.
It's going to be cold. I mean, we saw snow this weekend. Early November, we saw snow in South Bend when Notre Dame played Navy. And then yesterday in that Bears-Giants game, there was some flurries. I mean, heck, there's a chance we see snow here in Nashville today. So that's a big game. Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts, both those guys trying to establish themselves as the top quarterback in the NFC. And we'll see how this turns out. Eagles made some moves at the trade deadline, trying to see if they could shore things up. They've got plenty of talent. I mean, when you have Saquon Barkley and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith all on the same team and Dallas Goedert, like, Hurts just has to be good enough. And we saw that last year in the Super Bowl. He played exactly the way they needed him to play. That hasn't been the case as much this year. Tonight's a big game. Not only gets you a game advantage in the standings, but also the tiebreaker between these 2 teams, which could end up playing a role down the stretch. So I love that we've got a great primetime game tonight that should have some real playoff implications down the stretch, and 2 good teams. Let's just hope it actually lives up to the hype and is a good game. Dustin from Hopkinsville says A.J. Brown will write a novel about the Titans and catch 6 passes for 116 yards. Eagles lose by 1. Writing on the sideline, Dustin, is that what you're saying? That A.J. is going to be over there with like a typewriter sitting on the bench in between drives this week? Because I wouldn't put it past him. Let's go back to our text line. We got a couple more of these 911 Nashville episode ideas that I thought were pretty good. 6180 says Will Levis gets kidnapped and nobody cares.
Oh, I knew someone was coming with the Will Levis comment.
That one's pretty good. Will Levis still out there in California. Every week he doesn't come back. I think the expectation is that he's not going to come back. Randy says 2 bachelorette parties get into a brawl. Authorities come in to sweep up pulled out hair while picking up strips of cloth and bachelorette crowns. It's a good one. They actually, the party, the pedal tavern that they saw crash was a bachelorette party, shockingly enough. Let's see. Kevin says Vandy wins the national championship and the city celebrates and riots and destroys itself. Kevin in Nashville. It's that one could be good. I don't know if they could get the branding for that. Lots of good stuff on the text line today with that. I just wanted to warn everybody before they dive in on 911 Nashville. The NFL right now, is all over the place. And it's hard to believe that it's not going to end up being, Chiefs and somebody at the end of the year. We've talked about this since August of you can't bet against the Chiefs until someone proves they can beat them in January. But right now, as the standings sit right now, not going to be the way they are at the end of the year. The Chiefs aren't in the playoffs. They still have some work to do to make sure that they put themselves in a spot where they can make a run. Denver's 8-2. The Chargers got another win last night. So it's an uphill climb for them to get to a spot where they're going to be playing in Arrowhead. It's hard to believe it's not going to be the Chiefs, but with every passing week, it looks like we could see a new, different team coming out of the AFC. And the NFC, we talk about the Packers and the Eagles tonight, but Seattle's looked really good. I mean, they came out of the gates roaring yesterday. 2 quick offensive touchdowns, 2 quick defensive touchdowns to go up 28-0. The Rams beat the 49ers yesterday pretty easily. Matthew Stafford looking like a possible MVP candidate. And we can't forget about the Lions, right? Like, they were the number 1 seed last year. They ended up choking in the playoffs, but Jared Goff is a good enough quarterback with the weapons they have around him. Jahmyr Gibbs is an elite running back in this league. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown. You got Jameson Williams. You got Sam Laporta. The defense is a little bit of a question mark, but it's healthier than it was last year. Lions currently are the 6th seed. That's a team that I don't know if I'd want to play come playoff time, especially with the experience that they've had the last couple of years. You go to the NFC Championship and completely blow it against the 49ers. You had it in the bag to go to the Super Bowl, and you couldn't quite finish the deal. Then last year, you're the number 1 seed. You go 15-2, and you again blow it and lose to a rookie quarterback at home. I think there's a chip on the shoulder of this Lions team, and if they get in the dance, that's a dangerous team that I wouldn't want to face.
They're still the Lions, and Dan Campbell actually took over play calling yesterday from John Morton, and they put up over 500 yards of total offense. And Jahmyr Gibbs went off. And Jared Goff is still playing well. Amon-Ra St. Brown, two-headed monster with Sonic and Knuckles. The Lions are going to be there at the end of the year. I have no doubt about it. And the Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens and the AFC are starting to creep up. I could totally see a world in which I actually think it's going to happen. Baltimore is going to win the AFC North with the way the Steelers have played, with the way, Cincinnati doesn't have a defense or starting quarterback for that matter. And then the Browns just lost to the Jets yesterday.
Yeah,
it's going to happen.
We were talking about how the Titans won the bye week, and I know I said it on Friday that Titans fans don't want to root for the Ravens. Never. But if you want a 4th-round pick instead of a 5th-round pick in the Draymond Jones trade, the Ravens have to make the playoffs. You also need 2 sacks from Draymond Jones. I didn't see. Did he get any yesterday? I feel like we would have seen that if he did.
Let me look. I don't think so.
I don't believe he did because, again, I think somebody would have tweeted that out and said there's 1 of 2. So he still needs 2 sacks, but the Ravens, I'm with you. They're 4-5. They've won 3 in a row. Like it's starting to look more and more likely that they're going to find their way into the postseason. He did not get a sack. Ravens only had 1 sack yesterday. It was a Jones, but it wasn't Draymond. It was Travis. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. So much going on across the NFL yesterday. At the top of the standings and at the bottom of the standings. Again, it looked like the Titans got pretty much everything they wanted yesterday in terms of draft positioning. 615-737-1025 if you want to text or call our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. When we come back, we are a week into college basketball season and overshadowed by college football for sure on Saturday and overshadowed by the NFL. But we do have to talk about some of the big games over opening weekend. We'll do that coming up next. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up here on 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game, final half hour on this Monday. Chasing Big Joe coming up live from Key West after us at noon. So excited for that. They'll have plenty to talk about from the weekend, including Vanderbilt's win over Auburn in overtime on Saturday. And I did just see Diego Pavia, rightfully so, being named SEC Offensive Player of the Week. So congratulations to Diego. Vanderbilt, a much-needed off week coming up. And as I mentioned earlier, you got 3 games, none of them going on simultaneously, that could really impact Vanderbilt's college football playoff hopes. You've got Notre Dame at Pitt. That's at 11 a.m. Then you've got Oklahoma at Alabama at 2:30, and then wrapping up the night, Texas at Georgia. You're rooting for the Panthers, the Tide, the Dogs in those games. If any of those happen, it helps Vanderbilt. If all of them happen, I would argue that Vandy would be likely in no matter what at 10-2. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We're going to talk some college hoops in a second here, but 6641 did send in a long text that I wanted to get to. His dream offseason for the Titans: hire Brian Flores as the head coach, despite all of the lawsuit and BS he has with the league. Trade back from the number 1 or number 2 pick, stack up assets, and load your defense through the draft. Use all the new rookies and maybe a free agent or 2. Let Flores control the defense, and then boom, your team has finally installed a floor. Then after the 2026 season, fill in the last couple defensive spots you need filled and use the rest of your draft assets to build out the offense around Cam Ward. By the 2027 season, you'll have a competent team that's 7-10-ish, and by 2028, you should be in playoff division contention. Like the thought there on the text line. Brian Flores is a name that isn't quite being brought up as much as a lot of the other ones at the top. Your Mike McCarthy's and Robert Saleh, Arthur Smith, Matt Nagy. But Flores, I think, was a competent head coach when he was with the Dolphins. Clearly did not get along very well with Tua Tagovailoa based on the comments that have come out around those two. And of course, the lawsuit that stemmed from Brian Daboll getting the Giants job and Bill Belichick congratulating Brian Flores before he even went in for his interview, all that stuff. So it's interesting. I don't know if you want the baggage there with Brian Flores, but I wouldn't hate it. I think if you're going to hire Brian Flores, who has at the very least been a better defensive coordinator than he was a head coach, maybe you go with Robert Saleh and give him a second chance at head coach. But we'll see. Long way to go. We got about 2 months until we'll start to get some real news about what the Titans are going to do at head coach. At least I think so. They probably won't start interviewing until towards the very end of the season, and we'll see where they end up going. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Big weekend in college basketball, Parker. Season started up, and I love college basketball, and I know I work in college basketball, but I think it is one of the most entertaining sports in the world. The NFL is king, and I think the NFL is the world's best reality show. Like, they keep it going year round, 365 days a year with, games and free agency and the draft and trades and training camp and all that stuff. The NFL clearly has the attention of the most people, but there's a reason March Madness is maybe the biggest spectacle outside of the Super Bowl in American
Greatest
sports.
tournament we have in sports.
Right. And the early part of the college basketball season does get overshadowed during this crossover part where you're getting towards the end of college football season, and a lot of these fan bases just aren't quite ready to turn their attention to the hardwood yet. And the NFL, of course, is drawing a lot of attention. But man, we had some good games this weekend. Alabama, St. John's. What a thriller. 103-96, Tide take down the Johnnies on the road in New York. The SEC, as good as it was last year, getting 13 teams into the tournament?
14 if you're including Texas.
Right, 14. So, yeah, they got 14 teams in. I don't know if they'll be able to do that again. That's like way over the top, but the SEC is going to once again be an elite basketball conference this year.
No doubt. And that game, I wasn't paying too much attention because, college football was on, but I did have it on in the background, and it was just back and forth. It was a track meet. This is the first time that St. John's has given up 100 points defensively under Rick Pitino. It was a track meet. It was a phenomenal game. And I do hate that college basketball gets overshadowed by football. I hate it, but there were some great games. Arkansas, Michigan State
Right,
played as
went
well.
down to the wire.
Yeah.
Michigan State edges Arkansas. We talked about on Friday, UNC and Kansas on Friday night. UNC got the win in that game. The ACC maybe a little better this year. I mean, for what was the premier basketball conference for so long, they're struggling to get more than 4 or 5 teams into the tournament tops every single year. They need more from that. UNC, one of the blue bloods there, obviously has to have a good year. And then in-state, Tennessee and Vandy, both with wins. The Doors put up 105 too. Back-to-back games for Mark Byington's crew with over 100 points. That's just the way college basketball is starting to trend. It's not quite the NBA, but it's way more offensively focused than it used to be. You're not seeing as many of these 62, 61 grinded out games. You got to go put up points. And at the very least for Vanderbilt, we'll have to see what they can do on defense. But at the very least, Mark Byington's team knows how to score the basketball.
Absolutely. And I think that's going to serve them well. And I think they're absolutely going to be in the thick of contention for an NCAA tournament bid. The SEC is just going to be fun to watch. And going back to your point about the ACC, I do think that they're going to be better this year. It's kind of hard to be worse than they were last year, only getting 3 teams in. I did see a clip on Twitter of, I guess, John Rothstein had Coach K on his podcast, and he actually mentioned the ACC and Big East merging and how that would – that'd be a super league if that were to be the case.
Yeah, I mean, you combine the powers at the top of the Big East and a lot of teams in the ACC that obviously still put a lot of resources into basketball. Like Duke and UNC are always continually going to be at the top when it comes to
UNC won a big one over Kansas on Friday night.
Right.
So
Virginia Tech, big win in overtime over Providence too.
Hey, there we go. Hokies.
Neokolis Avdalas. I'm hoping I'm not butchering that. Freshman from overseas put up 33, possible lottery pick in the NBA draft. So keep an eye on the Hokies. They're 2-0 this season. Lots going on in college basketball. And I know it's early in the season. It's tough to get all the way bought in on college basketball, but you get to see a ton of great matchups, especially coming up in the next couple of weeks. We got Feast Week coming up in 2 weeks over Thanksgiving, where you've got all the early season tournaments, and then the ACC SEC challenges the week after that. There's a ton of great basketball, and it is tough to keep up with all of it during this crossover season when you still have high-level college football being played, and the NFL starts to take up more days of the week as we get later into the year. So just wanted to point that out. How'd Tennessee look? I don't know if you watched Tennessee's game in their first couple this season.
They've looked fine. The game against Mercer was okay. It wasn't anything to be super impressed by. But the game against Northern Kentucky on Saturday, 95-56, Nate Ament is looking like he's going to be the real deal. He had 23 points, the 5-star true freshman. I believe he was the 3rd overall recruit behind AJ DeBansta and Darren Peterson. So
right.
He put up 23 points, had 8 rebounds, 5 assists. So he's getting those Kevin Durant comparisons, which makes me nervous, but he's looking really good. So
that is a high bar to live up to. Those are big shoes to fill.
It's all because Coach Barnes coached Kevin Durant at Texas, but yeah, no, he's looking good.
Well, good weekend of college basketball. Good weekend of sports overall. Again, we talked about it earlier, Parker. It was nice to have a weekend of sports where you didn't have to worry about the impending dread of watching the Titans on Sunday. And coming off the bye week, the Titans, you would hope that they're going to make some adjustments, maybe be more aggressive, and get some of their key players back. Not having Jeffrey Simmons in the interior of that defense changes everything. Bringing back Calvin Ridley and getting an experienced receiver out there for Cam Ward is important. So I don't know if I want to use the word excited, but I am interested to see what the Titans look like this weekend. You know, Cam Ward's probably felt like he's been drinking through a fire hose for the first 2 months of this season. He gets a chance to take a step back and maybe make some adjustments. This game will be interesting on Sunday. Titans and Texans coming up Sunday noon, Nissan Stadium. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you have any final thoughts here on the program, we got one more segment. Chasing Big Joe coming up. 3560 says, being a Vandy fan, this is the first time in a very long time that I'm not all in just yet for basketball with the football team playing like they are. And that's an important point to be made of Mark Byington and Shea Ralph's teams. Like they're looking good. They both are expected to be tournament teams this year, but Vandy fans aren't quite ready to turn the head yet over to basketball with the way the football team's playing 8-2 after that win against Auburn on Sunday. First time that Vanderbilt has had 8 wins since 2013, only the third time since 1982. And Vandy can go undefeated at home for the first time since 1982 if they beat Kentucky coming up in a couple of weeks. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Again, last call for phones. We'll take one final break. We'll wrap things up on the other side. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game, Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly. One final segment on this Monday. Going to send you down south to Chase and Big Joe. They are in Key West today, along with Nick Frazier, Dr. Crane. So excited for that coming up at noon. Couple of odds and ends here before we end the show. Predators back in action tonight. They are up in New York, taking on the New York Rangers. Last game before the Preds head overseas to Sweden. So this is an important one for the Preds. Get some momentum heading across for what is a unique set of games against the Penguins in Stockholm. And the Rangers have been horrible at home this year. They have not won a game at home yet, which is crazy to say, but they have been the league's worst team inside of Madison Square Garden. They are 7-2 somehow. They have more points than the Preds overall, so they've been good on the road, but no wins at home. Their last two games at home against the Hurricanes and the Islanders, they've been outscored 8-0. So maybe an opportunity for the Preds to go get a win, get some good feelings heading overseas, because right now the Preds on a 4-game losing streak, and the conversations are starting of where do they go now? Does it take a coaching change? I would make the assumption they're not making a coaching change before Sweden, so we've at least got a week or so before anything would change. Do you start moving some players? Robbie and Rexroad ended their show today talking about the idea of maybe trading UC Saros. And that's a tough thing to do, right? Because he just was extended for 8 years. So you've got to find somebody willing to take on that contract while also giving you enough value back to make you feel okay about it. I don't think they're going to do it, but I think it's at least something with the way you're playing and the way your roster is constructed. Parker, it seems like something at least that the Preds would have to entertain if there's somebody like the Edmonton Oilers who want to make a all-in win-now move to get a goaltender back there who can help them get to the Stanley Cup. And maybe Saros is the move that they feel will do that and maybe willing to overpay for the goaltender.
I've had so many conversations with people about UC Saros because Max has come here on the show and said that UC Saros wasn't the problem for the team last year, but you talk to other people and UC Saros gets a lot of blame, a lot of criticism. Whose fault is it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just this team had Stanley Cup expectations, at least to contend for one at the beginning of last season, and how quickly it's all gone downhill is mind-boggling.
Yeah, it was a hope strategy heading into this year, and I kind of believe that maybe they were right, that some of those experienced guys, the veterans, would take a step forward after off years last year, and really just hasn't been the case. And I think the Preds are likely going to be sellers at the deadline again. Ryan O'Reilly likely going to be one of the names being shopped around. I don't know if you can even trade Steven Stamkos, but right now, I mean, he did have a couple goals over the weekend, but not great for the Preds. Tonight they face the Rangers in MSG before heading across to Sweden. And we'll see. Can the Predators snap their 5-game losing streak, or do the Rangers finally get a win at home? And again, Max Hers is going to join us on Friday, as he always does, but we'll be a little bit different this week with the Preds in Sweden. He'll join us for the final hour of Friday's show from 11 to noon, leading right into Preds pregame coverage as they take on the Penguins in Sweden. Before we wrap things up, it is a Vandy women's basketball game day. And, excuse me, we might have some breaking NFL news.
Oh, no, we do have breaking NFL news.
We do have breaking NFL news. Brian Daboll fired?
Yep. He is out.
Wow.
He's out.
That is an interesting decision from the New York Giants. Thank you to Wes in Clarksville on our text line for alerting us. So Mike Kafka going to be the interim head coach as Brian Daboll has been fired, second opening on the market. And man, that's shocking to me. I understand he's been disappointing, and you're now what, 2-8 if you're the Giants? So I get it. The record isn't there, but Giants fans at the very least feel good about Jackson Dart. He did just get a concussion, and we'll see how healthy he is moving forward. But I'm a little surprised they didn't at least let him finish out the year. But Brian Daboll fired. I would expect that means Joe Shane is going to be right behind him. The Giants going to clean house both those guys probably should have been gone last year, but they gave him this season. And I'm a little surprised that John Mara made the decision to get rid of Daboll midway through the year. So Mike Kafka, who likely going to be a popular interview for head coaching positions, will get a trial run with the Giants here down the stretch. Man, that's
Brian Daboll to Tennessee. Let's start the narrative now. At least as OC. I'd love it. I'd love him as an OC.
Yeah, I wouldn't hate that. Maybe you open up the idea of a Robert Saleh, Brian Daboll connection. Or do you just do you just rub it in the NFL's face and go Brian Flores?
I'm not going to get on this Robert Saleh train. I will not.
Really?
I will not get on board.
I'm not. He wouldn't be my top candidate, but I also understand the reason for interest. Man, I did not see that coming. I
thought the fact that Jackson Darts looked good might have saved him.
That's what my thought was like, hey, let's just at least get him through this year. But they decided to make the change now. So Brian Daboll is out again. Joe Schoen probably.
Joe Schoen has to go with him. He has to go with him.
I could not believe that Joe Schoen kept his job after the Hard Knocks stuff from last year. And that is why no one will ever do the offseason Hard Knocks again, because Joe Schoen, all of that came and bit him with the is Saquon really worth it? And then
backfired tremendously.
The one staffer or assistant GM or scout is like, are we sure that he's not worth it and somebody's not going to pay him that much? And they're like, oh, we're not paying Daniel Jones $40 million a year to hand the football off. Eesh. And Daniel Jones looking good somewhere else as well. So lots of wholesale changes likely coming for the Giants. Brian Daboll is fired after 4 seasons as the head coach, 4.5 seasons. He did take them to the playoffs back in his first year with the Giants, but has not been good lately. And clearly they did not think it was worth it to keep him around for Jackson Dart. Dustin from Hopkinsville says the Giants are dumb. Matthew in Nashville says someone will hire Brian as an OC for sure. I think his work with Josh Allen is what got him that head coaching job. And I think there will be somebody out there who wants to bring him in for their own young quarterback.
I think he's a good coach too. I really do. I don't think he's a bad coach.
I think he's a good coach too. I like it. 6641 said, did not see Daboll getting fired. I mean, wow, good coach, just a bad situation. Yeah, I agree with that. I think he'll get an offensive coordinator position somewhere, but I did not think that this was going to be the timing that they do it, because John Mara had the opportunity to clean house, and I don't think anyone would have blamed him last year after the season that they had. He instead waits until just after week 10 to make the move after the Giants blew that 10-point lead down the stretch. Wow. 2 openings now. Expect there to be more. The coach I thought was going to get fired today was Jonathan Gannon. Like, if I was going to make a guess of somebody getting fired, I thought Gannon would end up being the guy out the door after they went down like 38-0 yesterday against the Seahawks. But we'll see. Maybe that's coming soon as well. That'll just about wrap things up for us. Again, want to remind you, 5:45 pregame, 6:00 tip tonight. I'll be on the air. Vandy women's basketball taking on Furman. Home opener, looking to get to 2-0. The Doors, the 19th ranked team in the country, with Michaela Blake's out there, and great stuff from some of the young players too. Aubrey Galvin looked really good in Paris against Cal, I should say. So excited for that home opener night, 6:00 tip. Hope you'll tune in if you can't make it out there to Memorial Gym. That'll wrap things up for us. Chase and Big Joe are down in Key West. They've got you for the next 3 hours, recapping a busy weekend around sports. You're listening to 102.5 The Game.